Welcome back to Behind the Emerald Veil podcast with Ali and Mandy from Soul Star Energy Collective. We are intuitive mentors and healers, and we share about our spiritual journeys and topics and just have fun and in a relatable way. So, thank you for joining us. So, today we have a special guest with us. And so, we are so excited to introduce you to Laura Carbone, an acclaimed singer-songwriter, sound healer, tarot reader, and psychic medium. Welcome. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Alison. Thank you, Mandy, for having me.
Did I
You're
do your
welcome.
name justice?
Oh,
I
you
love that she has like,
amazing.
okay,
Yeah.
good. I'm like, there's like the European
Thank you.
accent to it, and I wanted to do it justice. So,
It was beautiful.
Thank you. Much appreciated. I feel seen and heard.
yay, yay,
Good, good, good,
good.
good. Oh,
Thank you.
so we are very excited to have you on as a guest today because you've developed your spiritual gifts and such through the pandemic, similar to how we did. So we'd love to hear about your journey there, but then also we would love to hear about this new album that you are releasing and the music that you create because there's this beautiful, intuitive healing aspect to what you create and what you put out into the world that we're just super excited to share about and to learn about a little bit more. But first, can you tell us a little bit about where you were at pre-pandemic and then how you kind of, I guess, started to open up to your psychic abilities and your gifts, and then sort of like where that's led you?
hmm So my 2019 ended in a very blissful way. My band and I were touring America from LA over through the whole country, to the whole East and up to New York. And we also went to Toronto and Montreal and Ottawa and came home and played a live television show, which was a dream come true, like that specific one. So I felt like I was gifted with so much,
Mm.
with so many exciting things that I, as a musician, dreamt about, like touring the US multiple times, playing these shows like this, and also having released a couple of records. And the cycle, the record that we're talking about today, was also in the works, but it got on hold, put on hold due to the pandemic, which was actually pretty amazing. I mean, I can say that now. Um, in terms of my spirituality and my works as a psychic, I have to go back to my childhood because I remember how fine-tuned I was in my environment. You know, I grew up on the countryside, surrounded by the forest, so I experienced the seasons, I experienced the spirits in the forest, and I just had the opportunity to be really in tune with nature and experimenting with my senses. But at some point, as you may know from your own biography, you come to the point where you repress those gifts because you feel like they're not okay, you shall not use them. And I demonized them, to be honest. Like I really put them down and put them aside and thought this would be bad, you know. I
Wow.
really thought this was negative, a very negative trait of mine, and so I repressed it, which led to actually a very deep depression. I mean, there were many more things going on,
Yeah.
but repressing your authentic self, I mean, it leads into depression. And I wrote my second album about it. And what I didn't know that was the fact that my voice was always my channel, and that when I sang and still sing, I can go into trance-like states.
Yeah.
And now that I know channeling, I kind of know, okay, I did that like the whole time,
Okay.
the whole time, and so I feel like my vocal cords and my expression was always my way of channeling and inviting people into um, that way of feeling emotions through frequencies and energy as well. but it took so much research and impulses from friends and workshop and this and that and blah, 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 until I came to the point where I realized that these senses are not typical, and it makes sense to dive deeper into this. And this is when I signed up for a mediumship academy and trained those senses and the craft and the technique. And this is where my life shifted in a very, very positive way, and enabled me to really use them without burning out, without being drained, with knowing my boundaries, sensing things, sensing those energies from other people, from other worlds, or how you can say it, and just staying in my energy. That was one of the biggest gifts that this discovery gave me, learning about my own energy and how I can sustain this energy and then invite other people into what I can give.
Wow. What a shift, like it just like I like it just is such like a, Mandy and I experienced it too. Like what a shift when you all of a sudden go like, wait a minute, this is where I want. And it just feels like it is this unraveling that is always being there that you didn't realize, right? I think that's the biggest thing is like you realize it was like, I've been doing this for so long, but I had no idea. I didn't connect the two. But then it like opens up your mind and perspective to so much more, and the healing part of it and all of that beauty. And I love the whole like sound and frequency, because that has been something that even as of lately have been very drawn to, and understanding how frequency and sound affects our being. And like even from when I do past life readings and stuff, I've been being shown different type of healing modalities, like in the Egyptian times, that sound, light, frequency, all of that were like healing tools within our energetic bodies. And it's so fascinating. And so I'm like, I really, when you were talking about that, I was like, yes. I'm like, I feel like there's so much more to this to like explore, It's amazing.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone is saying music is so healing,
Yes.
but do they really mean it? Do they know? Do they really know the facts, the statistics, and the real experience? And I'm so curious about the development of this reality when people really not only experience, but I feel like some people need more facts, because we're so mind driven in our society. And I'm very much looking forward to the moment when people really embody this and see or use it as a medicine,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, if you think about it, it makes so much sense that sound can heal, because our bodies vibrate at a certain frequency, our realities vibrate at a certain frequency, and music holds a frequency. And so if you're trying to attune your body to a state of healing, to use sound frequency to change the vibration of your body to start healing it, like that just makes sense to me. But I think that that's where we're headed.
Totally. I'm hosting sound baths, and my take on it is sonic ceremonies. So that's like a combination of my medium skills, but with the voice and with alchemy crystal balls. And before I start, I always explain the audience, that we're doing simple physics here.
Yeah.
Because a vibration is like touching your body, and your body is made out of about 80% water. And water vibrates so easily, and I feel like this little information allows people to go in a different way of feeling, because they're like, oh, physics, yeah, of course, that makes sense. I can take that and then
Tangible.
enter this journey. Yeah, it's tangible for people.
And I like how you say it's simple physics, because it is simple basic
Yeah.
physics, right? It's not complicated to
Yeah.
understand the frequency and, how the atoms vibrate and that creates the frequency and all of the, it's all connected. So yeah, that's so cool. And the sound baths. So do you do those online or do you do those in person or both?
Both.
Yeah.
And I really love having sound baths with multiple people.
Mm.
And I just had one last weekend with my sister who owns a yoga studio in South Germany on the countryside. And I think this is so, so, so wonderful to invite people to do some yoga and sound healing because it's I don't know. I'm sorry, my English.
That's
Okay.
okay.
I need a moment. You know, there are people coming into the spaces that I know from being a kid.
Oh,
Neighbors that
Oh,
are a little bit older, and
yeah.
they're trusting to enter such a session and modality and experience this. And this really warms my heart. Like seeing
Oh,
people before a sound bath, and maybe they're a bit skeptical or
yeah.
just don't know what to experience. And then once they wake up and you just look into their face and they had a good time and they take it home with them.
It's so
mm,
beautiful. And it does. That is so touching, I think, especially, yeah, because it is this new concept and not everybody is open to it. And, as human beings, we are very much really programmed to the physical, to be able to like, they're like, well, if we can't see it, is it actually working type of thing? Like we really want that
Mm-hmm.
tangible. And so it's kind of like opening up our perspectives of trusting into the untangible that these things are happening. And even just like if you we even just like I always like to like dumb it down to the point where it's just kind of like people are drawn to music and have been drawn to music over centuries.
mm,
So that says
Mm-hmm.
something. There's something within music, whether it's just instrumental, whether there's vocals, whether there's anything over like through time, it has been something that people are drawn to, that go to, that
Mm-hmm.
feel emotion and all of that. And so like right there, that says something that what are we being drawn to? We're being drawn to the frequencies that's in it, that is creating a feeling within our bodies that is pleasurable and that we enjoy to be around. So even if you just like, if people are like, oh, that's hogwash or whatever it is, it's kind of like, yeah, but you can't deny that people love music, like
mhm.
absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's just like such a beautiful thing to now start seeing people have the realization that that's part of like, the frequencies and that we can actually now start using it in uh, a uniformed way to actually like do the healing. And we can do that by measuring the hertz, the frequencies and all of that. And I love that you put crystalline sound bowls within your music, like within
Mm-hmm.
your, and I'm like, oh my goodness, because I like to like listen to music and have an intentional, like when you hear about certain hertz, how it certain hertz can help you with your intuition or help you with this healing. And I'm like, wow, to have that in music. So one, you're just listening to it pleasurably, right? I love listening to words, the poetry and all that. But then to have this like double layer of like while you're listening, it's healing you. I was just like, ooh, I love this so
Yeah.
much.
We and we really, really enjoyed listening to your new album
Mhm.
and the music that you create it's I don't even like so I'm Allie's a trained opera singer, as our audience knows. So like she knows music, she sings, she connects
Mm-hmm.
to it differently than I do. But I also really connected to your music and really, really enjoyed it. It was just so soothing and so peaceful
Mm-hmm.
and beautiful to listen to and just to have it on, just in the background while I go through my day. and to connect to it in the car. Like it's just a wonderful album. Like you're very, very talented, and we're very excited to have you chatting with
Thank
us
you.
today. Will you share with us a little bit about how you created your music and your album and the intention with the healing sounds and all that sort of stuff?
Thank you for all those amazing words. I'm really grateful for you to listen and to connect with the record. That really means a lot to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the record process was a very long one. It took me 7 years to finish the record.
Wow.
And I was supported by a great band, the band that was on tour with me in the States. And my initial intention was to create a band record. That was in 2017. And things shifted so much throughout the last 7 years. I mean, I don't have to tell you this. And I already mentioned that it was a long process and that the pandemic forced us to have some pauses
Yeah.
because we were supposed to record in spring 2020, but of course this was not possible. And I sensed very early on that this record story is a bigger one, and I'm not there yet. And I've been, I don't have a rule whether I start with lyrics or instrumentals, but this time I've gave a lot of space to the instrumentals and just put down some words, but I wasn't that focused or pressured to finish a song. When I create music, I always see the images. I can feel it. I can smell it. Like people can call it synesthesia.
Wow.
You can also call it channeling.
Yeah.
However you like.
We call that channeling.
And
Totally.
that's the way I create everything, and music, especially also when I'm singing. And throughout the process, I sat in a deep meditation, and then it was shown to me that I can place the songs in a specific order according to the cycle of the year, starting in spring.
I love
And
that.
that was like, oh my God. So I got out of the meditation and grabbed a piece of huge paper and scissors, and wrote the songs and placed it, and also put the nature festives and the moons, and I was just like seeing this wheel
You're
of
talking
the
to
year.
her soul.
I don't
I'm
know
excited.
To her soul.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah, I was excited too because that gave me an idea of the story. I realized there is a story that wants to be told, and the first song that is the opener of the record, to me that always was set that this is the beginning, but I needed to feel the beginning of what. Like I'm thinking about mourning each day away, and then it's gone, and then I realized, oh, it's a journey. It's the journey of an archetype that is starting, and that was wonderful because then I could lean into the story. I could lean into the seasons and bring in some elements that to me are connected to the sounds of the season. And I always write music in reference to the nature. Like I'm very drawn to symbolism coming from nature, and that was then also easy, or it just came, and wanted to be put there. And that was just magnificent and really, really wonderful.
I love everything about that. I'm really so Ali and I developed our gifts through the pandemic as well. But we kind of went straight to like channeling and the Akashic records and healing energies and like really connecting to like the galactic energy. And so now it's kind of like coming full circle for me anyhow, with really feeling connected or wanting to connect to the seasons and the cycles and the moon, and really harnessing that energy and understanding and really stepping into flow with that. So when you're talking about how that's how you created your album and the story that you've created through the album, that's so beautiful, because that just adds so much depth to what you've created. And I'm really excited to listen to the whole album now. But
Yeah, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I feel like it's called the cycle, and the seasons are
Yeah.
cyclic, as we know, and so many other things are cyclic
Yeah.
of female nature when you're born with a uterus.
Yeah.
And of course, the moon that is in connection with our cycle. And to me, it became a very strong urge to offer Earth something for our existence and for
Mm.
us devastating this planet. I
Yeah.
feel like to me it's essential to connect with Earth, with the Earth, and being present in our current status quo, because Earth needs us for justice and to help her restore the beauty and honor her in a new way. And I feel like it can be an easy start to get inspired by the seasons, because also they are shifting due
Hmm.
to the climate that we're experiencing. And yeah, so I hope that people can connect to the leaf that is now like sharing its beauty and will soon fall into the ground, that they connect with that in a more honorable way, so to say.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's like a continuous of death and rebirth, the
Mm-hmm.
beautiful part of that. And we as humans experience the death and rebirth on a continuous basis as well. But we can look at it with resistance or not in a positive way, but it's like, it really just kind of highlights how, like, how nature just mimics that. Like it just does it. There's nothing telling it to do it. It just goes through this natural process
Mm-hmm.
of death and rebirth every year.
Yeah.
And I know for myself that, the more I was stepping into my spiritual journey, the more I started having this like beautiful appreciation for, the springtime and seeing the rebirth. It was like I was seeing it through new eyes. We, we
Mm-hmm.
we take it for granted because it's just something that has just been there our whole life. And I think that's a big thing of when you kind of go through a spiritual awakening, is you start to see life through a new perspective, so through a new lens, through your eyes. And things like, when I start to see, I go for a walk in the forest, and all of a sudden when it starts at spring and it starts to get greener and lusher and greener and lush, and I'm like, I remember sitting there like thinking, I'm like, am I on psychedelics or something? Because this is amazing. Like I would walk in and I'm like, it
Mm-hmm.
is so beautiful. Do you not understand how and my family is probably like, what is
Yeah.
happening to you? And even just like connecting to animals, I have found since my spiritual awakening, I have become even more like this drawn connection to animals. So it's pretty amazing how it kind of like opens you up and cracks you open, and you start to see these beauties that you just never saw before.
Yep. Because you're connecting to
Yeah.
them in again in more depth. Like you really are connecting to all of it, and you're not taking it for granted, and you're not
Mm,
skipping over it and living life in a surface level, in a sense. Like you're accessing deeper layers and deeper levels of
yeah,
your consciousness,
yeah.
and you're able to experience life in that appreciation and from that perspective when you start allowing yourself to do that. So beautiful. I
Oh,
love
it's
that.
just, yeah, it's so nice. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, and I think that's the thing, is like we can all kind of say, like, before spiritual awakening, I real like when I look back, I'm like, oh man, I was in a haze. Like I was in a cloud. I was just doing life. I was completely not even aware. And then all of a sudden when you kind of like step into your intuition and open your mind up to more, that's when you kind of go like, oh my gosh, all the things I was missing. I'm like, it's just like so
Yeah.
beautiful. I'm like, I love it. I love it.
So would you say that your music has changed since you have been on this journey since 2017? Like the music that you're creating previously to the music that you just are creating, how would you like, has it changed, or have you always created that way, but now you're just connecting to it differently?
Um, I want to give a lot of credits to my band
Yeah.
for creating this amazing record with me, because that was something I've never had the privilege of doing before, recording with people that know me, that know
Mm.
my sound, and
Oh,
and are just all in in creating what I sense would sound good.
Beautiful.
So they brought in a lot of creativity. So that musically changed a lot. But what shifted for me the most is my voice and the way I'm using my voice. I reconnected with a breath and vocal coach throughout the pandemic to unlock more potentials in my range, but first and foremost in my emotional expression. And I can hear that on the record. And I also can hear how I dare to sound not beautiful, how I dare to sound raw and authentic. And my wish was to sound as pure and clear as possible. And with pure, I don't mean that it's polished, because it's not. It's like super raw tracks that we used in terms of my voice. But when it comes to the fact of honesty, like the way I prepared going into a vocal recording was just absolutely different. And as I embody the things that I say, we also worked cyclic on the record, meaning we recorded from top to the last one, from 1 to 13, and my voice came on last. So I also started with the first song because I wanted to feel this journey that our archetype is going through and really embodying it. So every day I was tuning in into the space, asking like, how shall this sound? How shall the feel be? And that was just phenomenal. It felt like seances, to be honest, and in a very intimate way. And I'm really, really happy about making this a point, that I need time for the vocal recordings and going all in, like with total dedication.
Wow. That's
I
amazing.
love that. I love that. Will you be touring for this album, like doing live performances?
Well,
In Canada?
well, that's a good point. I will be doing live seances in a new event character and a new evening, inviting people to spend an evening with me and the band, and combining my offerings as a medium with the crystalline bowls and the full band. But I won't be touring the way I did it before. That's not sustainable for my health and for many other reasons. It's not my jam anymore, and I feel like so much has shifted also in terms of value and my realization what I need to completely value my life, as radical as it sounds. But I also discovered that I'm a highly sensitive person and have a few other conditions. So touring always was very much out of my comfort zone, and I needed weeks to recover. And now I know how beautiful my body can feel, and my mind. And I want to serve from a very good feeling, because what I'm doing is serving, and I can only do that if I'm feeling strong, if I'm feeling energized, and can hold those people. That's also facilitator work, and I want to give my best. And I can't do that on the road without off days and so on. But I'm looking forward to my own events, my own seances, where people can come and have a great evening.
Oh, I
Well,
want
you're
to
honoring
attend.
yourself.
Are you going to be doing that in Berlin? I'll come to Berlin. Is that where?
Yeah, so you better book your flight.
I will.
Oh, I can't spill too many beans, because I'm just realizing it comes out on Thursday.
Okay.
But yeah, people can be curious, and I'm very much looking forward that we can have such a beautiful evening soon.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. What an experience. Well, I don't know how, I'm excited to learn more about that, because I hope that all music turns out to be that way. So people aren't touring like, typically traditionally a tour looks like, but holding holding intimate events and holding space for the guests that come and doing having some magic infused in all of that. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny because you bring up, because I was thinking, like, as much as music, we can come at it from this beautiful healing aspect, I can see how some music can have the opposite effect. And the fact that it affects us on such a visceral way, it's like, oh, I think it's important to realize what we're consuming at times, because I think anything, there's always that polarity, that you can have music that is helping to heal you and uplift you, and then you could also have music that is of lower vibration and not, supporting you in a good way, and how, to be very kind of like aware of what you're consuming, because it can go both ways. So, it's an interesting concept to kind of ponder.
Well,
Something,
even the music that our kids listen to, like, I know my son Jace was, middle school, it was all rap and whatever everybody else was listening to. And, there's a tone to that type of music and that industry even. And now he's older in high school and he listens to old stuff like jazz and like all of this. He's so diverse in what he listens to now, and he's not connected to that frequency, like that heaviness, that rap that he was listening to. He doesn't enjoy it like he used to. And I'm very grateful that he intuitively found himself that way, so that because he'll listen to music when he goes to sleep at night, and that's tuning him through the whole night.
It totally is. It totally is. I've said to Mandy before that if I want a good cry, I have music that I'll put on. And she was like, why are you making yourself cry? Why are you putting music on to cry? And I was like, because sometimes we have it in us that we just need to come out, and music always facilitates that for me. So it's kind of
like a cry playlist.
I do have a cry playlist, and it's like, because that it brings that emotion out, whether it's through the words, whether it's or all of it. Actually, it's not just the words, it can be the vibration, the music of it. And it's like, and it's amazing to see how like it does like affect us. And yeah, I definitely have my cry playlist.
Yeah, I also think it's interesting to ponder on the topic that some music that is aggressive is actually pretty amazing for us to also, let go of those so-called negative emotions, which I don't think that they are negative, and help us to release those. And I don't like to speak about low vibration and high vibration, but what I can say in terms of awareness, what you're consuming, I would think about the verb consuming and or listening. And I mean there are many harmful lyrics in a lot of musical pieces or music that is released by predators or by people that are clearly not in the best interest of our world. I mean, I have specific people on my mind right now, but I'm not calling anyone out. But people could think about the idea of separating the artist from the art, or if you want to consume really the music that came through such a channel who is might be so harmful in real life and treating human beings or animals or the world in a harmful way.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I've definitely as like somebody who's artistic, and I get the side of a musician being artistic and and kind of like, moving with their artistic influence or ideas, because I think there's like this kind of like line between like, okay, well, I want to be artistic and I want to be creative and I want to try something different and I want to do this, and but then it could be conceived as through the public, like, ooh, well, that's bad. And so I've often kind of sat there and been like, okay, like, is what they're doing bad? Maybe it is, I don't know. I'm like, but I also see the artist side where it's kind of like, ooh, I want to push the limits. I want to, create a music video that's like this, because artists push the limits. Artists, become creative. So where's that line between being artistic and it being art versus it being, something that's construed as negative? And so I just feel like there's such this like fine line in there that I know I've kind of sat with sometimes, kind of being like, okay, where I could see both sides, to that. I can see both sides. So it's an interesting one to kind of, yeah. And I think at the end of the day, it's, how does something make you feel? So if you listen to something and it makes you feel like, putting aside everything, if it makes you feel good, then that's for you. But if it makes you kind of feel uncomfortable, and that's the biggest thing of like being able to trust our intuition, being able to understand our own energetic bodies, is like when you can really kind of tune into yourself, you're a compass right there. It will tell you if this is of the light, or if this is good, or whatever it is, or if it's not meant for you, Yeah.
Your music, so in what you're creating, your album urges us to look at our demons and to shed old patterns and to use voice as a form of self-expression. Like, how were you guided to create that in that way? Was that part of the archetype that you were creating? And how does your music, is it the lyrics, or is it the frequency, or is it both that creates that self-reflection within the album? Does that make sense? Did I ask that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like it has a lot to do with intention, but also the urge to contribute change into our world, and and help voices that will not be heard to resonate in our world, because we need them. We need to listen to them to bring real systemic change into the world.
Yeah.
And of course, the record has so much to do with feminine energy, and I'm not speaking about gender here. I'm just speaking about archetypes and spectrums. And I feel like I mean, it's the fact that we're living in a zeitgeist where the patriarchy is really showing us how worse they treated the world and its inhabitants.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's time for reparations. And this, to me, includes that we also kind of repair our connection between our heart and our voice, and really speak from our heart into the world, because I feel like this is a source and an energy that really can bring change. And when I'm saying facing your own demons, also acknowledging how does my behavior contribute to injustice. And I mean, there is a lot. There is a lot to be worked on. And I'm not only talking about conditioning or things that you've learned, but I'm speaking more about the structure that we're part in,
100%.
So I hear this calling, and I really want this world to shift. In my wishful thinking, the world will become more peaceful, and that we're listening to those voices that have been repressed. Because I sincerely hope that for our children and their grandchildren is space on this world that they can experience,
I love that. And, a big part of that, like you say, when you face your own demons, it's like, it's the healing aspect. Like there's a healing within all of it. Like there's so much healing within us to discover and move through. And that's something like Mandy and I have done a lot of, and continue to, right, as you grow. I don't know, I find like as I grow and elevate, there's more that I kind of uncover within myself that I'm like, ooh, okay, that's a deep program, or, that's something from societal norms that has really like embedded in me. And I'm like, I don't want this anymore. And so it's like bringing that shadow to the light and understanding it, and, how much this deep programming and societal program is within us. Like it's truly within us generationally, that's in us. And so it's kind of like taking this time to like break this cycle. And that starts with ourselves.
Yes.
Right? It starts with ourselves. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Starts with, there's no way around. No way around.
Nobody's gonna do it for you.
A rewarding end. A rewarding
so
end
much.
before it starts again.
It's a cycle.
It is a cycle.
It's a cycle.
It is.
A little fun fact, that I'm working with tarot cards, and I love symbolism and I love the tarot cards. And it also occurred to me that you can place the major arcana with the songs, and it's the Fool. It starts with the Fool and it ends with the World. So the cycle really represents maybe a tiny chapter in your life.
Wow.
And we go through it again and again and again.
Wow. So is your new album, how many songs is it? 13 songs, did you say, on the album? Yeah. And did you record it through the cycles as well? Or how did you, I'm just curious because you created it with considering the cycles and the archetype and the journey and the moons and all that sort of stuff. So were there certain periods throughout the moon phases or throughout the seasons where you were really connected to certain songs that you wanted to ensure you recorded within that window, that time frame? Or how did you do that?
No, because at that point when we were talking about recording, we had to plan with the pandemic. So there was not much. I mean, it took us a lot of flexibility to make it happen, but intentional, that was my third wish or so. Like it wasn't a priority.
Right.
But some songs really came to me during the exact season. For example, Red Velvet Fruit, which is in the summer. I remember that was a song where my bandmate Brody sent me the piano of it, and he just sang a few lyrics, and I had it on my ear, and it was a hot summer day in Berlin, and I kept on walking around Berlin. I became thirsty and ended up in the museum, and then saw a picture of the red velvet fruit in the museum, and so I channeled it on the hot summer day in a park.
Wow.
Just like wrote it down and got it. And another song, Season Without Light, is a very sensual song, and I was inspired by the story of Demeter and Persephone. I don't know if you're familiar with mythology.
Yep.
So just very short, Demeter is the mother of Persephone. She is the goddess of the land, and Persephone becomes the goddess of the underworld because she gets captivated by Hades. And the song is out of the perspective of Demeter, like really craving to be with her daughter. And her reaction to her daughter being captivated is that she stops the seasons. Or she stops the growing, and this happens when we now turn into the winter phase. And it was exactly that phase and that feeling, knowing that even autumn is gone and that we have to endure this winter. The winter in Berlin is not really nice. So that was totally the feeling of longing for the last summer and not even having the energy to think about the summer to come or even the spring to come.
Wow. Oof. Well, I just like, it gives me goosebumps, like just even with just like how the inspiration comes in and then it just starts to flow, like that automatic writing, that flow that just kind of comes out, like that inspiration comes and it's like, okay, let me rush this, not rush this, let this rush through me to get it out. Like it just starts to come, and that just gives me goosebumps with that, because it's so beautiful. And And it's so amazing. I really am intrigued, even just hearing like the process of how these songs came to you, and like where you just kind of like received some music and then all of a sudden you got this like inspiration that just felt it through you. And oh, it just is so beautiful. And I feel like healing for yourself too, in a sense, you
Oh,
know?
yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it was a process. It was 7 years, and I felt like that some aspects really wanted to be embodied, so I could sing them out in a form of authenticity, you
Wow.
know. So
Yeah.
I also had to go through some aspects that were
Yeah.
pretty heavy, but I'm grateful that I had done that. And I also remember singing the last song, Phoenix Rise, which is a hymn, and like, you know, it's like the world card. Everything is great just
Yeah.
for a moment. And I remember singing it, and I remember hearing the impulse and saying, "Oh, you sing it like really in an uplifting way." And I still remember that it took so many weeks and months until I could really say that those lyrics are authentic to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It took a moment until I could integrate this very last step.
So you can
So that
embody
was a
that.
little bit, yeah, that was an energy or an emotion that came much later to me, but wanted to flow through me, which was also interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. Music, you know, as, you know, somebody that sings, it's like if I'm singing a song that means nothing to me, um, it's different than a song that I connect to the words or the message. You know, so if there's a song that it just connects to me and it feels relevant, um, it's like it comes out in a completely different way because you are literally feeling it. Where if you're just covering a song and it's like, oh, please sing this, and you're doing that, it's like it
Mm,
is a different experience, and it can
Even
be
totally.
felt and heard.
Well,
Yeah.
even yeah, even for the
Hmm.
listener, you can the listener connects to the emotion that the artist, the singer is in when they're expressing, you know, when they're
Mhm.
singing. So you can definitely you get chills when you're listening to somebody sing and they're fully embodying that song, those words, the emotion and the frequency of that experience. As a listener, you get chills when you're watching that, when you're connecting to that versus somebody who is just singing a cover or whichever. So there is a huge difference. I noticed that for myself, somebody who
Yeah.
doesn't know too much about music but knows I'm very clairsentient. I can feel quite easily. So yeah,
Mm,
that's interesting. So I love that
thank you.
as you were singing and recording and you were embodying, you know, that experience, and that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I sincerely hope that people dare to listen to the album, maybe even with headphones. They
Yeah.
may want to sit, they may want to walk, but I hope they feel a gentle hug when moving through the album, and trusting that they can go to those emotions when it stirs up. I hope
Mhm.
they can let go of those tears, or they can sense this anger that it takes
Yeah.
Mhm.
to feel, you know. I
Absolutely.
sincerely hope that this album is like a holding hand, or can function like a holding hand in guiding you through the process, knowing it can be turbulent, but at the end, it's gonna be better. It's gonna feel
Mhm.
good.
Oh,
Mhm.
so much so, right? Like just allowing those floodgates to open, allowing those walls that we instinctively put up to avoid the feeling, the emotion, whatever emotion it is, because all of them are honored. And, you know, having that courage to kind of like let that down. And that's where I feel, obviously, because I have a crying soundtrack, that's where I feel music supports that, right? That's music
Yeah.
supports allowing that emotion to come forward. It's just we have to get out of our own way to not stop that flood
Hmm.
to come out. And
Yes. Yeah.
I know for myself, you know, during the past few months, I've been in a real healing journey, and I've been really honoring when I've wanted to cry. And I've even noticed how I feel emotion and how it's expressed is different than it ever was before. Like there's a very much like, I don't even know what it is, like visceral, where my whole body, like if I'm crying, it's like I'm feeling every part of it. It's just different now. Or, there's times where I've have it where I'm like, I just feel like this scream, this like, it's so weird, but it's kind of like that nature where I just want to scream, and I can hear it in my head. And it's just like, just to scream out this like energy. And we're so taught to, are programmed to control ourselves, like to keep that tamed
in a box.
in a box. Yeah. And I think that's something that I'm even moving through, is like being able to express anger, because that is something I've definitely always shut down. And I've realized more recently through this healing, like there was this time I was driving, and I was just angry, and in my head I just screamed in my head. And I was like, I need to scream out loud. And then I was like, but I can't right now, because I'm picking up my kids. And I know if I let this out of my mouth, if I scream, I am going to like break down into tears. And so it's amazing to kind of see the difference to emotion and connection, how deeper it goes when you kind of even allow yourself to truly sit in it and feel it. Because in that moment, I was like, if I was to scream right now in my car and let out what wants to come out, I will collapse in tears, which is a beautiful thing. I just couldn't do it while I was driving. But it's like being able to like connect to that. And I think music is such a beautiful thing to help incite that and support in bringing that out. So
Totally. I'm so happy you talk about the anger as emotion, because you can sense a lot of anger on my record as well. I mean, there's one song totally that allows me to express female anger, and to tackle all those things that put women and other people that don't fit into the patriarchal white spectrum into silencing. And there is so much anger stored in us and in earth as well. And I feel like, I hope that when we allow ourselves to let go of our anger, that we help earth to let go of their anger as well. I hope.
I think so.
Anger can also be a very good vehicle.
Yeah.
To step up, speak up for justice in the best way. But it's not a bad force. It's actually a pretty good force, I would say.
Oh, it's beautiful. And it's like when we can allow, and when you say like females, like that has definitely been suppressed, over time. It's like, be a good girl. That's still instilled I would say, even in this day and modern day and age, talk about 100, 200 years ago, it was like, so like you do not speak up if you're a female. And I feel like there's more and more of us. And Mandy and I really connected kind of to the witch wound, and this part where you're seeing a lot of these, like this innate energy, this force coming up within us to be like, no, enough. We are speaking, this is coming out of us. Yeah, enough.
It's time to reclaim our power.
Absolutely. And it's a beautiful power. And I feel like it's a force to be reckoned with, as we start to reclaim that power, it's beautiful. So I love that you have that in the album, because we have to experience that and reclaim it and own it and be okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you record, sorry, your album, does it start with a season? So like with the Wheel of the Year, did you record it in a sequence so that like the first chunk of songs is really connected to the autumn, and then like, is that how you did it?
Yes, on the record,
Yeah.
on the vinyl,
Yeah.
it's two vinyls, so each side is a season, and
Oh,
we
okay.
start with spring.
We start with spring. Okay, that was what I was asking, kind of.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start with spring in new beginnings, and then so is it spring and summer the seasons, or is it just two halves of the year? So spring, summer, and then autumn, winter.
On one vinyl, it's like spring
Yeah,
with I think three songs, and then you turn around, and then it's three songs, I think, summer,
yeah.
and then you take the
Okay.
other vinyl, and then it's
Okay.
autumn and winter.
Okay, so you do get the
Mm,
four seasons. Oh, I love that.
I
Hmm.
know.
I'm gonna
And
buy the actual record. I have a record player.
Ah,
Yeah.
ooh,
I
amazing.
I
love that.
know.
Cool.
I know. I'm excited to purchase that. So your album is well, before we wrap it up and share when your album is being released and all that sort of stuff, was there anything else that you wanted to chat about the music or about your album? Anything that you want to make sure that you touch on?
Mm. Well, thank you again for giving me so much space. And as you already sensed, that album has a lot of deep
Yes.
layers. And ever since 2020, I started writing down essays and captured the demos, and you can find them on my Patreon. And I would
Awesome.
wholeheartedly and uh, like to invite the listeners into my newsletter,
Mm.
where they will receive more insights into the record, but also sound healings every now and then, and more inspiration that is connected with the cycle, the seasons, and our zeitgeist.
Beautiful. So we'll have that all linked in the show notes, how to find your
Thank you.
Patreon and how to connect to your newsletter and then your website, of course. And do you want to share when your album is being released and where people will be able to listen to it and where they can find you?
Yes, the album will be released on the 26th of April, 2024.
Yay.
You can listen to the album everywhere and you can buy the record everywhere. My recommendation is to go to your favorite record store or to order directly at at my homepage. And on Patreon, there's a special exclusive shop where you can also order the vinyl and the CD signed and dedicated. You know, I take some time to
Oh.
infuse it and to wrap it and then to send it
Mm.
out. So it's really special to me as well.
I love
Beautiful.
that.
Yay. Well, we will be supporting you when it comes out. We will share on our
Thank
page
you.
and stuff. And yeah, I'm very excited to purchase your record. So yay. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being with
Thank
us.
you.
We really appreciate the time that you took to share and also the time that you have taken to create this beautiful album and the music and the depth and the layers and the understanding and all that you do for this world and serve and just everything. So thank you very much for being with us.